I will introduce myself. I am Jim Gustafson, professor of psychiatry at the University of Wisconsin Medical School, giving my 35th of 36, that is the penultimate lecture, as Paul likes to say. It's called a Rutter, and Rudder at 4 a.m. for entering the day. Now, the last 5 nights have put something of huge and further importance to me about this hour of 4 a.m. in the darkness before dawn. The simplest comparison that comes to me is the signpost at the head of every cross-country ski trail that says expert, intermediate, or novice. Like this, we skiers into the day are warned of the terrain ahead, how much difficulty to anticipate. But these signposts, these 4 a.m. signposts, go farther. They literally hand you, like in the palm of your hand, the nature of the difficulty on a map. And they point to how you can get through them or capsize. In this way, they are more like guidebooks to running rapids, which point to tremendous, treacherous passages and point to the lines of sight that have a chance to get through. As I said in the conclusion to the last lecture, there is no substitute for a rudder, or routeur in French, and a rudder that is guided by the first two. A rudder is a name you don't know. It's an old Scandinavian word made for a crude map the size of my hand, often made out of leather, scratched on leather, for navigation, like Leif Erikson carried or Christopher Columbus. A routeur is the French name for a book of roads, like the Michelin Guide to France. Without these three, you're going to get badly hurt. Now, no one I know of has ever said this that I'm about to say to you. No one I know has ever had a sieve to select the map of the coming day from millions of possible maps. That's something. Of course, we all have such a sieve or net for making a selection, like of one fish out of countless fish. But we, of course, we all have it, but we don't know that we have it. You're sitting here not knowing that you have this tremendous biological gift. But you have it. So that's the purpose of this lecture, is to wake you up to what you already have. Now, Poincaré knew that he had one for creating his proofs of nonlinear geometry. He's the father of nonlinear geometry. But he didn't know that daily life demands exactly such nonlinear geometrical proofs of our personal trajectory in its terrain. Shakespeare came closest in the nightmares of his characters, like Lord Stanley at 4 a.m., signaling imminent death if the night message from the dream was not heeded. Lord Stanley did not heed the message. My plan for this relatively brief lecture, then, is to give you the rudder, or routeur, that was given to me at 4 in the morning. The first almost a year ago. The second this last weekend out on our prairie cabin. You can judge the significance of them for yourself. Of course, I need to say daily life is mostly not a matter of life and death. Not anymore. It once was. It's not so for me. What is at stake is more like nausea for running routes wrongly. You make yourself sick. I was talking with the PG3s a couple days ago about endless nausea being on call. Interesting. We can come back to that. So what is at stake is more like running things wrong and feeling nauseated by what you're doing. And that indeed is worth heeding. My plan for this proof, I'm proving like Poincaré, a proof in nonlinear geometry, which is the necessity of reading nonlinear topography in everyday life. And I will simply do it by giving you these two dreams a year apart, as delivered to me at 4 in the morning. I'll deliver them to you. Taking this pair in hand, you can point to the full set of possible rudders or maps or routiers. And then I can spell out for you the profound deliverance that is possible from this Puritan culture of will, that you can will everything in this culture. Extremely dangerous culture we are all sitting in. As always, as I demonstrated to you last week, the 4 a.m. map will turn out to be the relevant jump that I have to be ready to take the next day. Non-linear, a very big distance in a apparently very small compass. And they all turn out to be variations of one idea. This is another very large claim. The asymmetrical director culture of the hot engine stream in the New World, which I lectured about last week, attempting to destroy the symmetrical cold engine stream of the New World. Now, now you're going to get the first dream, and then I'll give you the second, and then that will be the lecture. That's the proof. About a year ago, I was struggling with a certain kind of, as the French would say, grande personne, as Saint-Exupéry would say in The Little Prince. You know what a grande personne is. I really detest these empty thrones of glory, as Agamben calls them, in The Kingdom and the Glory, which run on and on about themselves as if they were charming. I had not quite a year ago found out how to dispense with them. So that night I woke at 4 in the morning, and of course I was going to see a number of grand personnes the next day, with the following single sentence of dream text: I am throwing shams off a balcony. So let's go to the whiteboard, and you'll see the diagram on the left. That little blue figure there with his arms on a throne, you see, he's about to hurl it off the balcony. That's the action of this dream. I thought, oh, that's interesting. Okay, we can come back from the whiteboard. The title of it is Cleansing the Balcony. I don't recommend this literally, Chris. Please. But, so another reason probably I had this dream was I'd been reading Gogol, The Overcoat, which you probably haven't read, but it's a very degrading story, and I just refused. I just stopped reading, and I just didn't want to read it. I didn't want to take in any more nausea, It's so easy to take in too much that's bad for you. All right. So, my sieve reacts with violence. The balcony refers to a play by Genet called The Balcony, and the scenes are from a brothel in this play. So this dream is a map that alludes to an actual play. And in this brothel, the fire chief has the whore pretend to be a fire he puts out. This is absurd. And the police chief gets the whore to pretend to be a criminal he arrests, and so forth, you see. This is what I mean by empty thrones of glory. So mere agents of the surface glorifying themselves. These I am hurling off the balcony. Now at first when I woke up I thought, what? You're getting awfully high and mighty. That kind of looks like Hercules there on the balcony. This could be very big trouble. And then I thought, well, no, Emily Dickinson did this in her mind every time she turned around. It didn't seem to do any harm as long as you keep it in your mind. So the next day I happily did it in my mind as I went along pitching many, many grand personnes over the balcony. There goes another one. There goes another one. See? It was fun. So later in the day I thought of the Marx Brothers in A Night at the Opera. Literally, they invade the balcony of if you have ever seen Night at the Opera. Oh, it's great. It's great sport. And where the Marx Brothers literally get up into the balcony and start hurling things out of the balcony. It's quite something. Pretty soon they climb up into the rafters and up into the stage light, and they just have a tremendous time. So when there's such a gulf between beautiful work, such as I'm giving you, and a balcony of shams to judge it, I get violent and have a great pleasure in my mind if I'm very polite and bow in all the right places. I am acting here in the mainstream of American comedy, from Charlie Chaplin to Jon Stewart. If the hot engine powers are absurd, we will coolly unhorse them. A year later, and here we get what I dreamt a week ago. Very different, totally different. First one's American comedy, the next one's American tragedy. Usually I do it the other way around, but I'm sorry, you'll have to end on tragedy here today. It's what my unconscious said. So a year ago, literally 1 week ago, in the last lecture, I left off saying every situation, every person, every dream has to be a variation in this speeded up, asymmetrical director culture of the hot engine, attempting to destroy the unhurried, cool, and symmetrical cold engine. Not quite, as Mike Moran wrote back to me. He said, that's not quite true. And I thought about it, and I thought, yeah, dreaming went on for 2 million years of cold engine societies in the Ice Age, before the last 5,000 years of the hot engine. So, as Levi-Strauss demonstrates in The Raw and the Cooked of South American myths, which are big dreams for the tribe, you know. An enormous array of opposites, from raw and cooked, hot and cold, wet and dry, succulent and poisonous, and so on and so forth, can be the subject of dreams. And they were for 2 million years. But we still can have dreams like that, which Levi-Strauss called this full array of opposites, an armature, the full set that we can move in. We're Ice Age people, really. That's our biology. However, we are also these cold engine Ice Age people that were fell upon in about 1600 by another stream of the great breakout of our evolution, the hot engine people from Europe, that destroyed almost every trace of us in the New World. And will continue to do so. Thus, the armature of our dreams has been hugely distorted by the greatest. So dreams aren't the same for the last 5,000 years because a new danger occurred of enormous violence. Thus, the armature of our dreams is distorted from all these possible crossings, as in Levi-Strauss, to almost one kind over and over again, especially at 4 a.m. when you're about to go from your night into the hot engine day. By far, the dominant nonlinear pair of opposites in our armature is crossing from slow engine symmetry, maybe even what sleep is, you know, to racing hot engine asymmetry, and vice versa. So out on our prairie cabin, very tempestuous night last Saturday. I don't know if the storms were wild. Probably got into this dream too. I dreamt this at 4 a.m. And it developed slowly from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. There was an early version and a later. So we'll go to the whiteboard, and you'll see the first image is the one on below, which is what Breuer and Freud found in the 1895 studies on hysteria, which is what they called self-strangulation. You see that hand with a couple fingers around its throat there? Basically, in other words, what Breuer and Freud were saying, this is what I woke up. First, I woke up with that at 4 a.m., right? And basically, we all our patients try to choke off their own. If they have something that they're afraid to say, they will strangulate themselves with their hands, literally. And so you can lose your own point of view. You can be full of, Gustafson sign, as I said, and then you can do this to your voice. Then pretty soon you don't know what you think, right? Two lectures ago, I called it the case of every person. Now, the second version, now my instrument was about to get violent to reckon accurately the collision in the new world of the hot engine upon the cold engine. The second version you can see now in the upper and more surface compartment. Evidently, it was not sufficient for the powers of the director culture that run this new world to put people into a culture of silence by symbolic self-strangulation. After all, that's not irreversible and can be reversed by any astute doctor. Something irreversible was called for. About 5 a.m., I noticed something that truly frightened me. I dreamt that strangulation was going to have to be surgical. I saw a pair of people who looked like Native Americans, whose voice boxes had been removed. You see those dots there from where the voice box was? And then the pathologist weighed them to make sure they got all of the voice box. And then they were flung over the left shoulder of each of these persons, kind of like scalps. So we can come back and I'll finish the lecture. So about 6 a.m., I couldn't take any more of this. And I sat up to meditate on it. I was horrified. I thought my instrument was making a very big mistake. I always think that when I don't like what it says. I thought, oh no, this is some mistake. I'm losing my mind or something. In fact, the pair I was looking at, I thought, well, this dream doesn't seem to be about crossing between nonlinear opposites, because these two Native Americans are identical and indistinguishable. They both had their throats cut and slung over their shoulders. So, something has gone drastically wrong. And then I realized, aha, I said to myself after a while, and I sat up and I thought, oh, what this dream is doing is it's comparing what I thought at 4 a.m. with what I think at 6 a.m. It used to be reversible self-strangulation. But now something is going on that's much more brutal than what the repression that Freud and Breuer were talking about. And here's the last paragraph. And I've taken more time than I wanted, but I guess it's important. Indeed, Shakespeare foresaw it all in 1600. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are identical and indistinguishable like those two guys. So they can be counted on to be the voice boxes of the king. My instrument proved to me how a symbolic self-strangulation that is reversible gradually turns into a surgical self-strangulation that is irreversible and never again a threat to the sovereign. This nonlinear jump sneaks up on us. Thank you.